Alright, now in this kind of new section, we're moving away from working the top game, which we did previously. We're going to reverse roles, and now I'm going to be on the bottom, and we're going to be looking at the bottom game. Just to kind of reiterate, because I think it's important, I know I've said this a few times, but I just want to make this point. The whole idea of this series is really just to help you build a foundational game. And so in that sense, I mean, of course, I'm not trying to cover all the variables. If we tried to cover everything, we would fill volumes. There's no way you can cover everything if you think about jiu-jitsu. But I do believe that the things that I'm showing you, some of these core ideas, are really going to enhance your game. And then once you get that down, then you can start playing with all the fancy stuff, especially the stuff that you often see on YouTube. I love that stuff too. But without the foundation, there's no way that you can pull it off. Now, I'm going to start with Dwayne in this part, just from the closed guard. I'm not really going to focus too much on things that you can do from the closed guard. Again, I think there's a lot of great instructionals out there, things that you can, utilize from the closed guard position. I'm kind of more worried about when somebody actually opens up that closed guard. And that's typically where people get themselves into trouble, especially when they start first working the jiu-jitsu game. So that's kind of where I want to aim my focus. So here's the thing. The most important thing is that once I get to the closed guard position, now you need to understand the reason why I have a closed guard, the idea of the word guard, is to guard myself from something. And the thing that I'm trying to guard myself from mainly is him passing my leg position and getting to another position, typically which would be, for example, like cross side. So the guard is kind of stopping him from doing that. Now I know that, irrespective of the fact of how good I'm able to hold this position against a good player, eventually they're going to get the legs open. And this is where I see a lot of people get themselves into trouble. Before I even kind of get there, what's crucial, and you're going to see this a lot as we move forward, is that it's important for me to have the correct grips. Now when I'm putting my hands on Dwayne, I'm never just ever going to rely on my legs, so I have to bring my hands into play. This is the crucial thing, is that your whole body has to come to bear when you're playing your jiu-jitsu game, especially on the bottom. Nowhere is that more important. So when I take control of his sleeve, this is what I'm going to do. This is a typical kind of setup for a control. I want to grab the sleeve, I'm going to fold it backwards. I typically will never stick my fingers on the inside. Most importantly, the reason why that's a bad idea is that if this person moves really quickly, and a lot of times people kind of freak out and they do some crazy stuff, and then you get your fingers caught in there and jammed up and you're going to hurt yourself. So you want to grab the outside. Also, grabbing the outside actually gives you a lot more play with the sleeve. You limit your play when you do this. You can't really move it as much and in different directions as you can when you've got it on the outside. So grabbing the outside is the way to go. The next thing that's going to happen is this hand is going to reach up and I'm going to control the collar. And it's always crossing over. I mean, sometimes you do find yourself like this on this side, but most times it's going to be crossing over, because as you see when I open up this position and I start working with my legs, it makes a whole lot of sense, because this position coupled with my legs gives me great control over Dwayne, and that's what I want. So when I put my hand in here, I don't grab too low. If you grab too low, you don't really have a firm grip. You want to grab up high. The whole point of grabbing like this is, one, to slow his movements down, is to get control over the opponent. If I was utilizing more close guard action, I might be using this to break him down. And when we start looking at some of the submissions, that's something that will come into the forefront. Right now, though, I want to have this good control. I'm just going to assume, though, that Dwayne's got a really, great game, and, I've tried to hold this closed guard, but he's opening up the guard. When he opens up the guard, this for me is the crucial time to start kind of implementing some strategy and tactics, because if I don't get that right now, he's going to pass instantly, right? So if I say to Dwayne, just go through a guard opener any way he wants to, the minute my legs open, now this is where people make a lot of mistakes, right? Typically what people end up doing is they kind of leave their legs in this position. Now, not only are you putting yourself in a position where you're susceptible to, say, for example, an ankle lock, right, or any kind of leg attack, the other part of it is that if you've got your legs here, this makes it actually a lot easier for your opponent to pass, right? Because you don't really have any other way to stop him other than using your hands. And as I said earlier, you want to bring your whole body. So what's key here is that this is the most important thing, is if he comes back down and I close the guard, and I'm trying to hold the closed guard, and maybe I was trying to attack for a submission, whatever that may be, the second that I feel that my legs pop open, when that happens, I want to withdraw my legs and I want to bring them back. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the following parts of the video. I can put my feet anywhere. It could be right now, which it is 2 feet on his hips. It could be on his knee. It could be on his arm. It could be on his shoulder. I mean, you can really be creative with this. But what you'll tend to find most of the time is that when that pops open, the easiest place to go to first is to have 2 feet on the hips. This is probably the easiest place, and then once you get your feet here, then you can start moving your feet to other positions. So what I want to do quickly is just change the angle here, because I want to point out something else that I'm doing as well. So I'm over here, I have the closed guard. The minute Dwayne opens up this guard, this pops open, I'm pulling my feet back. Now, one of the things that you'll find that when we get to the point where we're playing an active guard, you're going to be sometimes on your back, you're going to be sometimes on your side, you're going to be all over the place. What I like to do, just personally, in this position, before we go anywhere else, is that the minute that opens, I don't stay on my back here, I like to move myself out. There's a couple of reasons for that, and that's going to become clearer, like I said, as we move in. One of those, I want to occupy the midline. I'm going to explain that in a bit. But also, this here, when I do this and I put myself in this position and I keep my knee off the ground, I don't keep it flat so my knee comes up. And I want to keep that flat because then he'll attack it and use it against me, especially if he can get his hand loose. I'm in this position. Now, this is a really good spot because I can keep the tension on him with my feet and I can pull him in with my hand. And now, once he starts moving from here, that will then determine where I'm going to go to next. So, as a just kind of like a first stage of going from holding the closed guard to the guard being open immediately, feet go to the hips, turn off to the side. Because this will immediately allow you as well to actively engage this leg. You're going to be able to move this leg straight away, which is kind of difficult if you're doing this. Because what most people will do if you just do that, they'll kind of close up the gap. He might bring his hands underneath like this and control the legs. And now you feel like you can't move. So it's far better to do this. Then once you're here, you can start deciding what you want to do next. Alright, so what I just did there was working from the closed guard. The guard gets opened. I immediately, working with my grips, I immediately go to feet on my opponent and then making sure that I turn myself off to the side. Now, before I go any further, the one thing you're going to realize when we start working the bottom game, because of the nature of the bottom game, it's also quite hard to see that on a camera, a lot of the nuances. It becomes very conceptual. So before I go any further, what I want to address here is just this idea of placing your feet on somebody and what you're actually trying to achieve. I have a little drill for this, and I think this drill is quite a good kind of intro drill just to kind of set your mind into this place where you know, okay, look, I want to have my feet on this opponent. Here are the options. I mean, you can literally put your feet anywhere you like. I mean, you can put your feet on the person's knees, you can put on his hips, you can put on your bicep. All these things are going to happen when you're actually playing on this side. Remember, what I'm trying to do right now with the guard side is I'm trying to, keep Dwayne fighting against the guard. I'm trying to stop him from passing. I'm hoping that in the process of while I'm kind of constantly moving with my hands and my feet, he's going to mess up, he's going to make a mistake, which will give me a couple of things. One, either I'm going to bring him into a submission, or I might get a sweep, I might turn and reverse him, right? So these are the things that I'm looking for while this game is carrying on. But if you've never played with putting your feet on somebody and you don't really understand that idea, this is a really good drill just to kind of start off with. So the drill that we typically do is where the person is standing up. Now, when I grab before, I grab the sleeve and I grab the collar. But that's not saying that that's the only way to control somebody. The other way, of course, is you could have 2 controls on the sleeve. So you could be controlling 2 sleeves, which is also a really good control. You could have one hand on the sleeve and you could also have one hand down here on the pants or on the ankle. So really what I'm saying is you want to control this person with both your hands and your legs, as I've been saying from the beginning. You don't want to just control only with your hands or just only control with your feet. So this is a good drill to show you that I'm going to have control of the hands, but I'm also going to be using my feet. So the drill is quite simple actually, but like I said, it kind of sets in motion this idea of always being connected to the opponent. My feet start off on the hips. I go foot onto the bicep. Now this is very important. When I put my foot on his bicep, I'm not just placing my foot here. I'm actually pushing with my foot and pulling with my hand because I want to pull him in and push him out. This is an idea you're going to see a lot when you're playing the guard. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in a moment, is that there's a lot of pushing and pulling, oftentimes in opposite directions. So when I'm kind of pushing with my foot, I'm pulling with my hand as a way to control him more. If I just put my foot here and I don't kind of create any tension on his arm, it makes it easy exactly for him to kind of recycle his hands, which he's going to want to do. He never wants me obviously to control him. That's the thing for him. If we go back to the first one that we did, the first section, where we were the other way around, the roles were reversed, the one thing I was doing was always preventing the guy from grabbing me, right? I was trying to prevent these controls. The reason I'm preventing the controls is exactly for this reason, is that the person who can control you is really in control of the game. If you can get the controls off, then at least you stand a better chance. Example, passing the guard. So when I put my foot here, it's not just merely putting my foot here. There's a pushing action and a pulling action. Then I move the other foot and I go here. There's a pushing action and a pulling action. So I've got him almost scarecrowed. He's kind of hanging on a washing line, right? That's kind of how you want to imagine it. Hung a t-shirt, okay? Now I want to go back to the idea before where I put my foot on his hip. But what I do is when I'm drilling this, I don't go, foot on the hip and let that go. I'm going to leave that there for a split second. I'm going to leave it there. And then I'm going to put my foot here. Once my foot is here, now I'm pushing on his hip and pulling on his arm. And then I release and I go to the other hip. So now I've got back to where I started off from. So I started here, I went push, pull, and then I go back to the hips. Now I'm going to go down and I'm going to go hook behind his leg. All of these motions you're going to see come out when you're playing that guard position and you're trying to hold this person off from passing guard. You're going to see all of these kind of foot placements and hand placements. Once I've got this is pulling into his legs, so I'm giving him a little bit of a pull. And because my foot is still up there, I'm going to push this foot as well. So I'm going to pull and push. So you can see immediately what happens is Dwayne has to kind of adjust his balance. He's starting to kind of fall a little bit, and that's what I want. I'm trying to keep him off balance. If I can keep him off balance, and that's really good for me if I'm trying to control the guard position. Then I'm going to bring my second foot down. So now I've got two hooks inside, which this is reminiscent of a butterfly position. So now I've got that butterfly guard position, two hooks there. Now this is the one that a lot of people struggle with, at least in my gym. And as I travel around the world and I'm teaching, I see people struggle with this one. I want to go for a half guard position on here. So what's going to happen is, the first one is actually harder. Once you've got that, you can set it up. I'm going to turn my body this way and I'm going to go to the half guard. When I do this half guard, I'm actually placing my knee just in front of his thigh and I'm hooking up my feet. I'm not doing this. So I'm just doing this now. Now, I want to get it to the other side. So as I go to the other side now, I can help myself do that in a couple of different ways. One way, of course, is that as I let this go, I can put this foot coming across here, back into the hook line, which will help me spin my body to go the other way. So it's the first one that's really difficult, right? To get the second one. Then once you've got the second and third, it becomes easy. Now I take this foot, I insert that hook again, which I just did earlier. That'll help me spin, and I will turn, and I will grab that half guard position. So if we look at the whole drill from the beginning, this is what I have, right? So I've got control of the sleeves. I've got my feet going to his hips. I've got a bicep control, foot to the hip, hook in, hook in. So this is the butterfly position. Now the first one's the hard one, right? I've got to kind of do it just straight off the bat. Turn, get that. Now I can use my hook to help me rotate as I go this way to this position. Use the hook to rotate. So this is a really nice drill just to kind of work this idea of always connecting to the opponent, always making sure that my feet and my grips are working at the same time. Good idea to work this with somebody if you can find somebody just to kind of drill this with. And I promise you, if you get this right, the next part that we're going to go into is going to be a little bit easier. Alright, so we looked before just at some of the foot placement and the grips, right? So I want to go into this next section now, which is a little bit more conceptual. It's building off something that we talked about in section 1 when we were looking at the reverse roll where I was on top. Now, one of the things that I talked about there was that if I'm trying to pass Dwayne's guard, although I might start in a midline, I never want to try to pass in the midline. The number one thing that I always want to do is I want to be passing either really close on this person, or I want to find a way to stretch him out. If I can stretch him out, then it's going to be easier for me to pass. So, but when we reverse the roles now, it's different. I never want him to get too close, and I never want him to stretch me out. In actual fact, what I want now is I want to occupy that midline as much as I possibly can. The only way that I can control the midline is one, by understanding grips and foot placement, and also being aware of where my body is in relationship to him. So now I have to be prepared to move my body either away from him and sometimes into him to secure the midline position. So we're going to go really slowly on this because it's kind of hard to do slow-mo, without full resistance, because it actually works a lot better in resistance than it does when you're trying to slow things down. But we'll do our best. So let's say Dwayne's down, right? I started off with the closed guard position, right? I've got my grips. Maybe whatever I was trying to do here, I was trying to set up a submission, for example. I was waiting for him to make a mistake. Or, for example, in the process of doing this, I opened up because I wanted to go for some kind of sweep. But he's kind of astute. He knows what's going on, right? He's picking up on this. And he gets to the point where he's starting to look at opening up this guard position if I haven't already let it open. And then when he opens, so if you go for a guard opener, he opens. Remember what I said, I don't want to have my legs hanging here. This is a bad idea, okay? Because if you do that, not only are you susceptible to things like ankle locks, but also you're making it so much easier for this person to pass. Because if you look very carefully, he's close to me right now. Right, he's in that close position. And I said there's two perfect places for him to pass. Really close or getting me stretched back. Right now he's super close. So it's not a good idea to have him here. So that's why, besides not being in a vulnerable position and leaving my legs hanging out to get ankle locked, I'm going to this where I'm putting my feet. Now you're going to see something very subtle, which is very important. I go immediately to putting my feet on him. Right? Probably what most times you will find is that getting your feet to the hips is the easiest one first. And then once he starts moving, you can start playing around with other options that we did in the drill. So I get my feet to his hips, but I'm still feeling slightly vulnerable right now. I feel like Dwayne's way too close. If I leave him here, he's going to control and kill out my hips, which we looked at when we were doing those guard passes. That was the whole idea, for him to kill out my hips. So watch this, very subtle. I am going to turn off to the side, but watch what happens. I use my right foot because I'm just turning to the left right now to face the camera, but watch what my body does. I slightly retract myself. So I pull myself away. I was very careful not to do this though. To go full extension. Remember what I said? I said, if I fully extend myself or he gets me extended, he's going to pass this in an instant. It's very easy. It's almost impossible then to stop this guy from passing your guard. That's why you want to keep the midline. So if you watch what I was doing, the minute that guard opened and I put my feet to his hips, his knee is right by my butt. That's a telltale sign right now that this thing's way too close. So what I immediately did was, as I started kind of getting the feet to the hips, I also used this foot to retract myself so that I go to the midline. Not too far stretched out, and not too close. I'm in the midline right now. Once I'm in the midline, now I actually am in a good place to control this. This is much harder for him to pass. He's probably not going to get a pass from the midline that easily. He has to come close or he has to pull me out at an extension, so stretch me out. So I'm always going to be fighting for this midline, which then will allow all these other foot placements to come into play. Right, so I'm here. Now, let's just say, for example, and we haven't rehearsed this, right? So this is a good way to kind of show you why this is so important. If I say to Dwayne, look, okay, you got the guard open, and I want Dwayne to start working some kind of pass. Immediately what I start doing is I start trying to preempt and stop that pass by now starting to utilize some of the other foot placement motions that we did earlier. One of those was what? I was controlling the bicep. So now my foot is actually gone to his bicep. Right? The reason I'm doing that is because if I didn't do that, he would have placed his hand underneath and he would start going for that single underleg pass. So the way that I'm starting to prevent that is by placing that foot on the bicep. Now, right now I still got the collar and sleeve control. But, of course, as he moves again, that may change and now I might be here. So now we're back to what we did in the drill, where I've got two sleeve controls and my foot is on his bicep. The most important thing for me is this, is that I need to be prepared to relinquish this and go somewhere else. The biggest problem that I see with people when they're rolling is they get fixated on a position, right? Be that whatever it is, cross-side, this position, right? Where we got the spider guard and we're controlling the sleeves and I'm controlling the biceps. Obviously, if I can stop him and hold him here and control him, I'm going to utilize it. But the minute he makes a move where exactly, look how he just stood up on me. Now, I know that once he stands up on me, one of the things he's going to try to do is get one of these hooks off. He's going to want to try to maybe recycle that there, control, whatever he decides to do. So the minute he starts trying to pass now, I might replace my foot on his hip. Now what I did this time around is instead of just placing it this way, you know, like we did before, where I placed it kind of in inverted position, I turned my foot around to block his hip out. So if you come this way, Dwayne, let's just turn this way. All right, so I did like this. I turned my foot there as a way to stop him. I still have the sleeve. Right now, I can't get that collar. The collar is way too far away. I'm not going to try to jump up here and get it. Obviously, anytime he comes down a little bit, I might re-grab back to here. And now I'm pulling myself back into positions where I get that midline. Always making sure that I'm controlling the midline. So as he continues to try to pass, I'm constantly reassessing the position. Right now, I put a hook in because I feel that that's a good way to kind of hold him there for a split second. Maybe I might switch this grip and I might put the foot over there. So this is the problem when you want to approach this from, say, a technical standpoint. You want all the techniques set out for you. This is very conceptual. The best way to do this, always, is to get somebody, like I'm doing with Dwayne, and say, look, I want you to pass, but don't like pass 100%, give me everything. Just slow down the action a little bit, and let me practice all these different positions Rodney was showing, right? So now I can be quite creative. Like I said to you, you know, you can come up with so many variations on the grips. Right now I've got this grip. I might decide that I want to go in and control the ankle because that feels really good. Depending on what he does next, however he starts assessing, there again, what happened was I felt that he was trying to go for a single underleg pass. So I placed my foot on his shoulder this time. I didn't go to the bicep. I just felt I couldn't get to the bicep. Remember I said earlier, you can put these placements anywhere. Shoulders is a viable place to put it. Bicep is a viable place to put it. Sometimes it might be down here, that's viable. Sometimes it's on his hip this way. Sometimes it might be on his hip that way. I could also, at times, depending on what he's doing, I might want to put my foot on his knee to stop him, hold him in place. Of course, anytime I lose that, like he takes that off, he does something, he does this, I'm going to immediately start recycling to come back to a position. I'm constantly controlling between the control on his gi, like his sleeve or his collar, or double sleeves, right, whatever I've got, and I'm constantly putting my feet into one of those spots, right, where I'm putting the hooks. I'm going to show that half guard position, what that was for in a second, right, maybe changing up the grips, constantly moving with my feet. Now I'm lying on my back, right, I don't like this to be here too long, so the minute I'm here, and I always try to change to be on the side. Also, what I also do, which you'll notice, is I don't always have to occupy him with both feet. I don't always have to have 2 feet on him. Sometimes I can have 1 foot back, right, and 1 foot forward, which this allows me then to use this leg as different positions to hold him in place as he's trying to move around and pass my guard. So I'm constantly moving. If suddenly he sits down, all right, I'm doing the exact same thing. If he's trying to sit down and pass, everything else changed. Look, he's coming underneath my leg here. So here's a good example. He's coming underneath here. Obviously what I need to be aware of is this is a problem. I don't want to get this leg basically pulled up and him start working. So I might control his sleeve now and hook my leg this way on his arm. So I'm controlling it now. Right? He's going to do whatever he needs to do. I'm going to constantly move and I'm on my side, which really just gives me a lot more movement and better motion. And the whole time I'm playing this midline game. At any time, right, so if we back up over here, at any time, if Dwayne can close the distance on me, right, he can suck in that space or get me spread out, he's going to pass. So what I'll do now is I'll make a mistake, right, so I'm going to be here, I'm trying to get this control on my side, I'm playing midline, but I'm going to let him either get close or he's going to pull away far. Right, there's pulling away far, but what didn't I do? I left my legs down there. So now my legs are extended out. Now if he comes now, there's not much I can do in the way of stopping this pass. What I should have done is, I started here, and the minute he pulled away from me to make that space, I must pull my legs back. Right? Pull my legs back. Don't be hanging out here if you can help it. That full extension, see my knee is locked out. Now that's going to be very hard because sure you can pull your legs back now, but it's going to be a little bit too slow. By the time he makes the move and you want to pull back too slow, the minute he stepped back away from me is the minute I should have done this. Now this foot's on his bicep, this hand is on here, this hand is here. I'm bringing my feet back. When he comes and starts trying to make some kind of pass, I'm going to stop him again in the midline and I'm going to switch myself up. Constantly playing this position so that he doesn't get an opportunity to make any kind of pass. Right? I'm always playing the midline. If at any time I mess up and I let him get close, oh, now I'm in trouble. Because once he gets close, now he can start affecting the pass. So my number one goal is, if he did get like this, is to do what? Is to find a way to drive him back to the midline. Because just trying to fight him here and just trying to stop here is really hard. If I go for the pass, I'm going to get passed, right? If I go back there again, and the minute he pushes my leg, but I just push him for 1 second, I can move myself back. Now I'm back to the midline. So the key elements is this. As you can see, it's not that easy to teach that technique. Say, okay, here's technique number 1. Here's technique number 2. Part of jiu-jitsu is also very conceptual, and you have to play with the concepts to really get it. But this is the most important thing. If we just go back and we just kind of look at an overview. I started off in a closed guard, right? I'm holding the closed guard, I've got the grips. Dwayne opens up the closed guard. He opens it up. The minute he opens it up, my feet are back and I'm placing them on him. What you normally will find is that 2 feet to the hips is what you get first. I'm not saying that's always the case. If you could get a foot to the hip and a foot to the bicep, hey, no problem. Ideally, you don't want to stay on the flat of your back too long because, you know, the floor becomes then an obstacle. You want to basically be on your side, which allows you to move your legs more. It gives you more kind of pressure with your feet. It also means that you can recover and recapture positions a lot quicker. Obviously, this means that you need to be able to turn from left to right. You're controlling the sleeves, you're putting your controls on the biceps, but most importantly, you're watching where this person is. If he's getting way too close, you've got to back up, but watch that you don't back up too far and then extend yourself and then you get past, right? If this person's trying to extend you, like if you think of, like, you know, often in jiu-jitsu we have a Toro pass where you use the legs and then you flick it out. That's a good example of pulling the person and stretching them, right? So the minute I feel this person grab my pants and he starts swaying my legs, I've got to be ready to pump myself back in slightly so that I don't get pulled and extended out. As long as I'm doing that, that in itself is going to improve my game, my guard game tenfold. Then, once I have that, then you can start seeing the glimmer of, oh, geez, okay, I can put that in. Oh, there's a sweep, right? There I can do this specific move. Oh, there I can do the De La Hiva guard. But I feel that until somebody has this structure down and has this part of the game, a lot of that other stuff, you're going to miss it. You're not really going to understand where it comes into play. So go in and work this part, just as I showed you, just playing around with somebody that's not giving you way too much resistance, and then slowly start building in all the other elements. Right, so what we've done up until this point, we've really just dealt with the guard quadrant, right? But, you know, like it or not, even though you might be playing all the stuff that I just showed, you've got the grips, you're putting your feet in the right place, and you're keeping the midline. Look, let's be honest. People get really good at the game. Some people are better at passing the guard than others, but if you're dealing with somebody who's got a really good guard pass, there's a chance where they're going to get past your guard. They're going to start moving to the side quadrant positions, right? So you know what that is because we already discussed that in section 1. So Dwayne now is going to actually start working the pass, and he's going to be getting into the side quadrant. I want to try and stop him before he gets fully past that and gets to the cross side position. This is kind of maybe a little bit of a different approach, I think, is that I call this pit stopping. And the reason why I put this into play is that what I often found was that people would be playing to stop the person from passing the guard, but the minute the person got past the legs, they just kind of gave up. Right? They give up and then they let the person get them in the cross side. So in actual fact, when people ask me, they say, well, how do I escape cross-side? My answer to that is try not to get yourself into cross-side in the first place, because once the person has the cross-side and has you flat on your back, you're always going to find that it's more difficult to escape. If you can try to put some roadblocks in the way before they even get there, it's going to make it much harder for them to get that final solution of getting you flat on the back. This is part of it, right? So this is the idea that I'm utilizing, is that I'd say, okay, look, I've done everything that I can. I've tried to keep the midline. I've tried to keep Dwayne off, but he's got past my legs. He's coming. He's moving into that side quadrant position. He's in the transition right now. What can I do right now to stop him from getting any further? This is where that half guard position comes into play. Again, I'm going to do it a little bit different, because what I still want to do is I want to keep him away from me, and then I want to be able to use that to recapitalize on that position to get him back into the guard position. So, here's an example. We'll do it this way first, and then we'll change the angle. Right, so if I'm over here and I'm playing everything right, well, at least I think I am, right, and I'm trying to stop Dwayne, but at some point he gets a position, maybe he extends my legs, and that's coming by. The first thing I want to do now, when I see this, you can already see what's happened is where Dwayne is standing right now. He's in that side quadrant. Okay, he's no longer in the guard quadrant. The guard quadrant's over here. The only way, if he stands exactly doesn't move, the only way that this could be considered back the guard quadrant is if I somehow move my body back here and I'm back to this position. Right now he's back in the guard quadrant. But we're assuming that, whatever, he's coming around, I was over here, he's caught me off guard, he's coming this way now. My focus, my attention needs to move to this back leg. I need to kind of focus on this back leg, not the front leg. Leave the front leg, right? I want to go to the back leg. And what I'm going to do now is, as I see that and I feel, well, here he comes, and I don't feel that I can get back to the guard position because maybe my timing is a bit slow, I'm going to put this foot in like we did before on the drill, and I'm going to start working for that half guard. Now he's going to keep coming, and what's going to happen as he starts coming down, I'm going to capture this, and then I'm going to be in this position, in this half guard position. Now we're going to change the angle quickly, so Dwayne will be here, just to show you. We'll get back to that same position. So I'm going to capture this leg, but I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go like that. And the reason I'm not going to go there is because if I do that, that's fine. I have stopped him from completely passing my guard, but I'm in a vulnerable position here. What's likely going to happen is this hand's going to come underneath my head, he's going to smash me to the mat, and he's going to get me flat. And he's going to start turning. He'll probably put his hand over my head now, right, and start turning and start basically attacking that leg to pass. So that's a problem I don't really want to deal with if I don't have to, right, because then this is going to make it harder. Right, so what I did is that I caught this leg like I did in the drill. I connect my feet, I can go, foot on top of foot. You can put the hook behind the ankle. But what's most important here is that this knee is up. And it's up at a 45-degree angle. It's not down like this, because if you do that, he'll just smash it, and then he'll pass anyway. So you have to keep this foot here. So what this does is what I call the pit stop, right? He now has to basically get rid of this knee somehow. Either push it down, right? Either push it off, right? That's what he's going to be trying to do. And only then is he going to be able to work against this, right? Because I've put this in the way. This hand is on the sleeve, this hand is on the collar, which is very typical, right? Because this is a position that comes up a lot. Now I'm holding this, so I'm holding him in this position. I'm actually not even going to try to do anything with this because there are things that I can do with this, but we're looking at a foundational game, right? Jiu-jitsu for anyone, right? So that's the thing. So what I want to do now is, once I stop him here, right, there's a couple of ways you can do this to help you. What I like to do here, just to make it easier, is I'll actually switch the grip to the other side. This hand, and again we'll change the angles, goes to the knee, and I'm going to use that to pull myself out. And I'm back to this position. So really what I did there, and we'll go this way now, really what I did there was, I used my half guard and that leg at 45 to stop Dwayne for a second from getting the full pass, going to cross side, and then I'm just waiting for the opportunity to pull that bottom leg out. And as I pull the bottom leg out, I'm back into playing my guard. Now I'm back to square one again. Now I'm back to what I was doing earlier, right? So if I'm over here, Dwayne's coming around, but I get to this position and I've got this control. If I don't feel that I can, because sometimes I know that, especially for beginners, they don't feel that they can just pull this leg out. They feel a little bit stuck, right? I mean, of course, because as you train jiu-jitsu, your hips get more fluid, you get better movement. It's very easy for me to use this pressure on his stomach at 45 to pull that leg out. Sometimes people struggle with that. So one way just to get around that struggle a little bit is just to switch the grip for a split second, put your hand on the knee, hold that, and use that as a way to hold him in place as you pull this leg out. And that might become more important, especially if you go here and he sits on my leg. So he puts his weight down on my leg. Yeah, exactly. Some people will do that. They'll sit on your leg now because they realize that they want to try to control you. Okay? Again, if you're using this knee correctly, see how I push this knee into him? Because that's kind of uncomfortable. It still should be easy for me to pull my foot out. If I can't pull my foot out, then I switch the grip, I go here and I use that to pull. I just hold him in place and pull my leg out. Still the same thing applies. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stop him from getting the full side position. So if we go back now, just back to the middle, and a little drill that we play in the gym is because it just to build timing. So this is something I want to talk about. I mean, of course, timing is important everywhere in jiu-jitsu, but on the bottom, if you're on the bottom, your timing is crucial. If you mess up on the timing, then you will lose the positions, right? You'll allow the person to get positions that you don't want them to. Just one mistake on timing. So timing is very important. And the problem is that it's very difficult to develop timing in hard, fast rolls. because you're just trying to survive. The best place to build this timing, incrementally, and then slowly you pick up the pace, of course, is to slow the action down. Go flow is like what we talk about in the program. Our tagline for Monkey Jits is flow is the way. We want to flow all the time. We want to slow things down because that's where you're really learning. That's where you can say, oh, okay, you know what, man, that wasn't a good idea. I should have moved my hip a little bit more. You can troubleshoot. You can't really troubleshoot when things are going really fast. Like I said, all you're trying to do is survive. So when you slow things down, you can risk making a mistake. You can risk mistiming something. It's okay, and then you can just fix things. So if I'm over here and I start off from the guard and I just say to Dwayne, all right, man, just go, just do some passes. Here it comes, boom. So I can practice that. There, I got it. Now, right now, my knee isn't attached to him because he's standing up, obviously. If he came down, that would change things, right? If he decided, okay, I'm going to try to sit down and pass now. So now I still have my knee at the 45. Just in case he sits down, he's going to land into my knee. Right? What does that tell you? That tells you that right here I could have done what? I could have stopped him here, right? And immediately have gone back to working my guard position like I was before. Right? So there's going to be two instances there, and this is how you learn where that comes out, is in a drill. Either he's going to be standing up and I catch that half guard and he hasn't met my knee yet, or he's going to be down and he's going to meet my knee. So when he's kind of just playing around like this, and this is an unrehearsed drill, we didn't rehearse this, right? We're just doing it. There's going to be times when he's going to be up. There's going to be times when he's down. The most important thing is that I'm always making sure my knee's at 45. I'm never folding it down like this. And I want to try to stay away from pulling what typically you hear of is pulling a full half guard, right? Where you catch and let the guy come down. I mean, that's like kind of last resort. That's really what you want to try to avoid as best as possible. So if we're playing a little bit, we'll go, let's do it this angle, Dwayne. So we'll give us a better angle. Right? So come over here, and Dwayne's trying to pass. And I'm moving, I'm just letting go, boom, there we go. Because I felt like, okay, I needed to do that, that was coming. Of course, once I do that, he's going to carry on moving. My next goal is to always pull that leg out, right? And this is where, you can start learning to be adaptable on some things. Actually, what I did there for a split second was, I was over here, and I put my foot here. Remember I said your feet can go to people's knees, and I just came back to something we did earlier, and I used that to pull my leg out, because that enabled me to do that, right? So he keeps going, maybe go this way this time, right? This time's happening, he's moving right, there we go. I maybe stopped him for a second, but he goes again, boom, there we go. And now I'm here. This is kind of live. If you see I'm recapturing positions all the time, this is reality. This is how jiu-jitsu works, right? Okay, so now I'm over here, I'm trying to stop him, boom, pull my foot back. So each time my pit stop is there, I'm trying to grab that back leg, have my knee up, just in case he does come down, he's going to sit into it so that I can make sure that he doesn't pass. That's a much better way to, if you want to approach, escaping cross-side. I mean, I know it's not cross-side, but remember, if I miss that, and we're going to deal with that in the next video, if I miss that, then he's going to be in cross-side, right? So now, I'm going to have to deal with that problem. It makes far more sense to put this pit stop in the way, slow him down a little bit, get back to the guard, play from there, than rather allowing somebody to get that cross side and now having that problem to deal with. All right, at this stage now, this time around, we've put the pit stops in, but, like it or not, maybe I mistimed it. This is jiu-jitsu, man, it happens. The thing is so fluid, so quick, it's so chaotic at times that even if you try to put all these things in, you miss things. And so this time around, I've missed the catch. I don't get that pulling of that pit stop half guard to stop him. And he's coming past and he's coming down, right? I know that. He's coming down. He's going to want to get cross-side on me. This is what we're assuming right now. Of course, it could also have been a knee right, but we're looking specifically at the cross-side. So now he's coming down for cross-side. Now, what kind of attitude should I have in meeting this? Here's the thing for me that's the most important thing, is that what I try to stay away from as best as possible if I'm really trying to stop this person from getting cross-side, is I don't want to be flat on my back, like I said earlier. Being flat on my back is never a good idea, because now, once you're flat on your back, you see even the best players in jiu-jitsu struggle. Once they get caught flat on their back like that, it takes a bit of time and energy to get out of there. So it's a lot better to kind of not land up there in the first place. Of course, anything you do in jiu-jitsu has positives and negatives, and that's just the reality, right? So we can even address that. But if I'm over here, and I'm playing guard with Dwayne, and just stay down for now. So just like stay down on the pass, so it's a bit easier, right, for them to see. And I'm doing whatever, and I miss this, and so Dwayne's coming around. So you can see this is happening now. He's coming around to that side quadrant, He's trying to do something, he comes in, he gets me. This is what I want to prevent, this idea of getting smashed flat on my back, because I know that once that happens, now it's going to be really difficult. So let's jump back a little bit further. Okay, so probably the best thing that you can do is, number one, always meet the person on the side, right? So don't try to, just stay where you are, man. Don't try and stay here and try to deal with this person. This is not very good for you as far as leverage. This person's weight coming in is going to just hammer you coming in like that. You're never going to stop somebody like that unless you're much bigger and stronger, right? This is not a good strategy. It's far better to already be on the side, right, in what we could call a brace position. So I'm bracing myself for this person coming in. This is going to be better for me. I stand a better chance. Plus, I'm not giving him a landing pad, right? So if you think of like those Air Force carriers, those naval Air Force carriers where, planes are coming and landing on the deck, right? You're letting this plane land on the deck, right? You're giving them a flat surface to land. You want to switch off to the side and no longer give this flat surface to land on, which means it's going to be harder for him to get and secure good control. So I want to be in this position. Now, when I'm here, you'll notice as well, I don't have my legs hanging out like that. I don't want to be stretched out. Anytime I'm stretched out, I'm weak. I don't have a lot of leverage and good hip movement to work with. So I want to bring my legs up. I want to be in this position, and I'll literally want to connect to him this way. The one thing that I am looking for, preferably, which is always kind of like a great default place to go when you're trying to escape this position, is I'm looking for this hole over here. If I can get my hand in here and I can start working that underhook and come out, that is like kind of like one of the core ways of getting out. It's a high percentage move. You will never get this though if you're lying like this, because now it's really hard. You have to try to dig your hand in. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. So when I'm dealing with Dwayne and I'm moving over here and he starts passing and somehow that gets lost, the first thing I want to do, like I said, is I want to meet him on my side. My legs are going to come up. And the reason my legs are coming up is that if I want to put my leg in the way, already I can stop him with my leg. But what I like to do is, my first kind of place to go is I want to focus on this side of his body. This hand is on his shoulder and I've got my wrist underneath his chin line, and we'll change direction so you can see. And my hand is round about on his bicep area, so I'm controlling this position. That means that as he's driving into me now, that means it's a little bit harder. I can still get pulled over, so I have to be aware. If I feel like I'm going over, just an adjustment of my hip to pull my hip back a little bit will stop that. Now, in this space over here, I can make a decision on what I'm going to do. I said the underhook is a really good place to go, but right now, where he is, he's way too far away for me to do that. But he's a little bit still further back. So this is good opportunity now to pull my knee in and start pulling back to the guard, which places me back to where I started. Right, so if we change the direction, and Wayne's over here. Okay, so I'm over here. I've been trying everything to stop this guy. Now he's coming, boom. That's where I want to be. Right? Remember I said I want to have my hand on his shoulder and my hand on his bicep. So even if we just move back a little bit more, yeah? Let's go ahead. Right, turn this way. Right. So this is where I am, okay? Controlling him here. This is what I want to block. I'm going to stay away from here right now, because even if you put your hands here, that's not going to stop the person turning on me. Right, so you want to stop them there, block out there. Now, as he pushes into me, I'm going to pull and go back. Right. Sometimes what's going to happen, of course, and this is where this will come in, his hand is already going over here, and you're in this position. So now I'm here. Maybe, he might even have tried somehow to stop, my hand from working properly, or maybe even grabbing my pants, whatever he's doing. Right, now stay this side, maybe he did this to control my pants, which is very common. Now I feel like if I try to move and bring this leg in, I can't get my leg because he's controlling the pants. This is where this underhook motion becomes very important. But here's a trick. Right now he's still a little bit too far. So what I want to do is I want to use this leg, that's why I always have my legs up, to bump him with my knee. And as I bump him with my knee, look what's going to happen. He's going to come over me, and that enables me now to be in this position. Now, of course, all I have to do is retract myself and pull myself out, and I'm on the top position. So you'll notice, again, this is something that I've said earlier, and I did say this in the beginning. I said, look, this part of the game is quite conceptual. It's very hard. You can learn techniques, but there's so many variables that can come into play that troubleshooting is really the only way to go about this thing. Is that I'm trying to always use my whole body in jiu-jitsu. I don't want to be reliant just purely on my hands. There was a good example of where I actually used my hands and my legs And because I felt that he was way too far down and I couldn't actually, there's no way I'm going to use that underhook to drive him over the top of me, I used my knee to bump him. Okay. The number one thing for me though is is meeting him on my side. That's key. All right, blocking out that part of the body, so the part that's closest to you. Don't worry too much about the legs, just worry about that arm. Put this kind of almost like a shelf action in place, right, so that he has to go up against this. This is holding him as well. And then look at what are the two main things that you could possibly do, which you're going to find is either you're going to pull the guard, and that's going to be largely predicated on what he does, or you're going to go underneath the arm. And if the person's a little bit too far away, you use your knee to bump them, to drive them forward on you so that you can make it easier for you to come out the bottom. So if Dwayne's in this position, just to give an example, and I'll actually switch sides here. So let's say I've missed all of this, he's got past here, he's come here, this is where I want to be, right? This is, now, what I do next, if I'm either going to pull my leg in, or I'm going to go underhook, is going to be largely predicated on what he does, right? So even here, this changed already, because what he did is he wants to try to control this as a way to pass. Now, I can't use this leg. I can't get an underhook because of that space. It's not going to work. This arm's connected now to my leg. He's grabbing it. So the other option for me would be, as he starts coming out, I might use this leg, putting in that 45 degree that we did earlier, the pit stop, as a way then as it continues to drive myself back to my position. So this is what if he comes back, this is what I was saying, is that the whole idea in this is very conceptual, right? It's very difficult to say that there's specific things. But right now, even with that third one, you'll find that just with those three, you're going to have a lot of options, right? So if he's back again, all right, he's passing, I'm going to block, I'm going to see what he's going to do next. Right, he decides, okay, he's doing that, there's my knee, keep coming, pull myself back, and I'm back to playing the guard, and I'm putting my hooks in. We can go back again, he can decide to do something else this time. Each time he does it, it might change slightly. He's passing, he's coming around. I don't want him to get crossed out. I'm watching what he does. Now he has his hand underneath my leg, but that doesn't stop this leg from coming through. So now I can pull that bottom leg through, because he maybe blocked this leg this time, but he didn't block this leg, so I slide my knee through. Maybe next time he comes in, this time throw your arm over, so like you're going to be going over my body, right, as you pass, right, so he's trying to capture this, this happens, right, so now I was trying to get this, but immediately I was here because I saw that opportunity, I put my knee in, so even if I just have one hand here, it's good, I still want to have this, right, don't take this hand away, at least do this, alright, I could have stopped here, but this thing happened so quickly that it was already on me, so my hand was here, he's actually almost in the right position. Almost. But if I just use that knee, one more bump, and pull myself, I'm out, and I'm on top. So this is a couple of ideas there, but I think the most important thing there is making sure that you hit the side, that you have your legs up, that you're placing your hand on the bicep and the shoulder, very, very important, and then see what you can do. Can I pull the bottom leg through? If that's not possible, can I go underhook? If I go underhook and he's too far, drive with your knee, right, and then pull yourself out. If I can't do that, something else is happening. Can I pull my top leg over? Now when I pull my top leg over, same thing applies as we did before. I'm never going to put it this way because he's going to smash it. I want to make sure that I get it across at the angle, all right, so that he's got that to work against, and then I will use that as an opportunity to turn myself back and start playing the guard. So in the previous video, we looked at 3 basic ways to recapture the guard. When Dwayne was actually passing, I tried to put a pit stop in play, didn't work, he's coming past, I met him on my side, so I made sure that I got the brace position, right, I controlled the bicep and the shoulder. I then looked at 3 basic ways to get back to the guard. Right, because that was really determined on what he was going to do, if he was grabbing my pants and so forth. Because this is the thing that's very interesting to me, is that there are a lot of great instructionals out there on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and on grappling, but a lot of times they set up the techniques in a perfect position. It's like you don't ever see, oh, what happens if the person re-grabs this position or puts their hand in that position. Everything is perfect to make the escape work. That's great, but the problem is once you're on the floor, once you're on the mat, it never works out that way. I mean, every single time, and I've said this previously, is that every single time you roll with somebody, the game can be completely different to the way it was before. He's never ever coming in exactly the same as he did before. So like it or not, even though you have these ideas, these principles, and you have techniques, you have to troubleshoot in that moment and come up with unique, creative ways of dealing with the problem. What I'm going to do now is Dwayne is going to get past completely. He's going to get me in the cross-side position. I'm going to be flat on my back. Let's be honest, that's not the place I want to be, but it happens. And now we have to kind of troubleshoot. There are a lot of different kinds of escapes here. So I always try to, wherever possible, keep things simple, because I think if you keep things simple, then there's less opportunity for making a mistake. So when he gets me in the cross-side position, now remember, I've tried everything else, right? I've tried a pit stop, I've tried to get the brace position, but all that's failed, and now he's got me in the cross-side position. I'm over here. First thing is this, is that I want to make sure that my legs are up. I always try to bring my legs up as far as I can, because I also know, if you remember from the previous videos, when we were looking at the top game, he's not just going to be in cross-side, right? If he feels like he's losing this, or he feels that he can go somewhere else, he's going to. He might want to mount me, he might want to go to a knee ride, whatever he decides. So I don't want to be down here, because then my ability to stop what's coming here is very, very difficult. So I always bring my legs up. Now, you can, of course, if you want to, you can put this leg up. That's very common as well. This is a really nice position to be in, because this will stop the person from just sliding their knee over. But again, as we saw when we were looking at the top, one of the things he would do is he would take this hand, put it over my head, right? He would use this hand as a way to kind of strip that leg down and hold it away, so I can't bring it back up. So now I would have to use this leg anyway, right? And he could quickly change that arm. He can also change it to the front. He can go from, say, from holding here to quickly switching to here and then slide his knee over. So here's the reality of the game, right? As you try to put one countermeasure in, he's already thinking, what else can you do to get past that? And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. So the most important thing here for me is to keep my legs up so that I do have an opportunity to react, that I can try to block these positions out. All right, where do I place my hands? Well, here's the thing, right? The one thing that I want to try to always do when somebody gets the cross side of me is I don't want to give him chest to chest. So this is always really a bad idea. If your hands were out here and he puts chest to chest, this is very difficult now to deal with, because that closing down of chest to chest, and plus the floor is in your friggin' way, right? So the floor becomes an obstacle to you. Now if you want to move, it's really difficult. So what you want to make sure is that when he does come down, that you do meet him with your forearms. Try to let him put as much of his weight on your forearms as you possibly can, because at least then you do have still leverage to be able to move. Once you go chest to chest, you lose that, right? You want to try to make sure that you put this in. Now what I do is I keep my hand up here, control his shoulder. You can grip the gi, if he's got a gi on, grip it, and I drive this part of my forearm into his throat area. This hand is down here. It may even be underneath here a little bit, just to kind of, again, kind of let some of his weight drive onto my forearms. Okay, if this happens, and it does, if this pops out, this hand would be much better if it was here, but this is still the most important hand. This hand over here is very, very important, because you can at least use this as a way to drive him off you. Now, there's lots of escapes, but I'm just going to stick to a very simple kind of approach to this. The thing that I feel is the most important thing to do here is to, wherever possible, get back to the brace position. Because at least in the brace position, you stand a chance of getting out, but you also give this person less opportunities. If he stays here, of course he can rotate and he can move around, and we're gonna look at that in a second. So here's the thing, right? So if I'm here, I want to get him off me. I want to at least start turning onto my side. Now the way that I'm going to do that is I'm not just going to try to turn into somebody, because he's putting his leverage, his pressure is coming down this way. There's no way I can just turn into somebody. So what I want to do is I want to move my legs away. I'm actually going to take a step away when I'm ready. I'm going to step away, and as I step away, I'm now going to use this arm just to drive him up a little bit, just to create this brace position. It's like a shelf. I'm holding him in place just to create this opening that's happening over here. We'll give a different angle in a second so you can see. So now I've got this opening. This opening then allows me to decide, what am I going to do? It kind of comes back to what we just did early on. I can now put this hand into his hip to hold him in place because I've been able to create a brace. I'm on my side already, which I said is much more efficient for me, right, as far as escaping. Gives him less options. And now I can take this bottom leg, I can slide this bottom leg through and go to pulling the guard. I could, if there was an opportunity in a space, I can bring my top leg through, then pull my bottom leg through to get the guard. Or, if the opportunity is there, I can sink my hand through, go through to this position which we did before where I was going underhook. Right now, again, which typically happens, and you'll find this happens a lot, is a little bit too low on my arm. I can use my knee behind my arm to pump him up, to bring him across, so that I can escape and get through. So if he jumps this side quickly, so we got a different angle. So Dwayne has cross side. Look how I meet him. Okay, so just come up quickly, Dwayne. Look at this. See how my palms are facing up? I prefer this way, right? So I've tried everything else. Here he comes. Look what happens. Boom. That happens. So at least now, a lot of his weight is driving on my forearms. What's key is this hand is now going to grip, or at least be on his shoulder, but a grip is much better because it's stronger. This part of my forearm's driving into his neck. This arm might be here. It might be here, right? But I still want to try to get as much of the weight on this arm. But more important than this arm is this one here, because this is the one that I need to get myself back to the brace position. So I'm going to be here right now. He's on my forearms. That means I'm keeping his weight off me. I'm not doing this. Now his weight's on me. That's hard to get out of, right? So I'm over here. Now, once I'm here, I want to drive. You see, it's not just pumping my hand straight. I'm actually turning my arm. And as I turn my arm and I skip my feet out, so I'm going to move my feet. My feet are going to go here. I do it in this sequence. Feet go. Now the driving action happens. And watch my hip on this side. Boom, there. I move to the side. Now, if Dre just picks his arm up so you can see, there is a gap over there. That's what I want, that gap. That gap's going to give me three basic options. The first option is I could put my hand on his hip now to hold him in place. He's moving his hand up here so you can see. All right, I can drive my leg through. You can see what will happen now. This is important. Once I get my leg through, I want to pull my head backwards to here so that I can bring back to the guard position. Now I'm back in an active guard position, which we've already covered, right? Or maybe I feel like I can't get this leg through, but this one potentially can come through. When I come through, I'm not doing this, because we said before, anytime you keep this kind of position on a leg, he's going to smash it. So you'll notice that when I brought it through, what did I do? I hit a 45 degree. So actually this leg now becomes the brace instead of my hand. This is more important. So now, if I can't reach his hip, I can put my hand on his knee. Same thing now. Anytime I want to get this leg through to pull back to the guard, my head's going to drive back. As my head drives back, I pull myself. Now the reason I keep pulling my head back here is because the problem is that if I just bring this knee in and I try to just pull my leg through, first of all, there's not enough space. But he may take this hand, reach in and grab my collar and start sucking himself in to close off the space. You see, now he puts his hand here on my hip. And the reason he's doing that is because he's now trying to recapture the cross side. He knows that if he can control this part of my hip, he can get back here. So here's a good example of a troubleshoot. Let's say I was a little bit too slow. All right, but I can still get my knee across on top, and I can still pull myself back and still recapture position. So it's very important that once you start going on these first two, that you pull yourself back. Now, on the last one, was I had my hand over here. Maybe I decide, for whatever reason, I want to go through this space. I want to go to this underhook position, okay? I'm going to bring my hand through. As I do that, it comes across. If you can reach yourself in and close yourself to him, that's a good idea, because then it's going to be easier for you to get that last motion. If at any time you feel like you can't throw this person over, you use this leg to pump to come out. So there you have your three options just to work out of that cross side position. The reality is, on escaping the cross side position, is that, you know, if you look at it from a foundational point of view, although there can be variables, there's really only three ways to get out of this. You're either going to do what we just did now, where you create some kind of brace position, get onto that brace side position and pull the guard or get that underhook. I kind of put those in the same genre. Or you're going to get a sweeping action where you can reverse the person and turn them over. I'm not really focusing on that in this series because I feel that that takes timing and you need to be able to know where somebody's weight is. It takes timing. You need to play the game for a while to feel that. Or you can turn and move away from him. So you can actually literally turn your back on them and move away, which is dangerous, but sometimes it's the only option that you have available to you, especially once somebody learns how to hold that cross-side position. So we're going to look more at that and we're going to troubleshoot on that as we move more into this part of the section where we're looking at playing the bottom game. All right, as we move into this section now, I'm going to get a little bit even more conceptual, right? But the idea is that we're going to build off some of those micro flows that we did earlier when we were reversing this process and I was on top, right? And I was looking at how do I keep the top position. Although the escapes are really important and learning the technical aspect of the escape is important, I think that some of the points that I'm going to point out now are equally important and oftentimes are not discussed when we look at jiu-jitsu instructionals. So if you've ever watched any instructionals, a lot of times this stuff doesn't get discussed, which I think sometimes can be far more important to a degree than the actual technical escape. Because the problem, as I said earlier, is that it's all well knowing techniques, but the fact is you have to troubleshoot and things don't always go exactly as you were working in the technique because you're working against a resisting opponent. Everybody you roll against is going to be slightly different. Right, so I looked at escaping cross-side, right? But here's the reality, is that the minute Dwayne feels that I'm working some kind of escape, he's not going to stick around. If he has game, he's going to move, right? He's going to move somewhere else. That's something we did on the microflow. I said, okay, if you're holding cross-side and you feel like you're losing it, don't just stay there and wait until you lose it, right? Move. And so if we look at one of the first microflows we did, we went cross-side, north-south, cross-side. This is a typical example. So as Dwayne feels me starting to escape the cross-side, naturally, he's going to move somewhere. One of the places he can move is to the north-south. So we're going to look at how do we deal with that. Now, there are escapes for north-south, right? There's stuff that looks really great in principle, but when you actually try to apply it, not as easy because of what I just said. Nobody's going to stick around and let you escape. So if Dwayne's this side and he's holding cross-side, and I am getting everything aligned, I'm getting my hands in position, the minute he feels that I'm pumping here, you see how he rotates his arm, and now he's going to start moving to that north-south position. So this is where he goes. Now, what you typically see here, a very common escape that's taught, and it does work, I'm not saying it doesn't work, right? But it only works when he doesn't really understand the game and he doesn't know about moving the minute he starts feeling something happening, right? So if Dwayne doesn't move anywhere, let's say he stays here, you see this kind of common escape where people will put hands in their hips, they'll move themselves back, they'll bring their legs all the way over inverted to this position, right? And then depending what happens, maybe sometimes you can get both hooks in, all right? There's a good example. So this inverted escape of pushing back, nothing wrong with it. It's a great escape. The problem with that escape is, once the guy starts developing game, and this is probably where people have problems, and this is the whole point of saying jiu-jitsu for anyone, is saying, how do we troubleshoot this stuff? Yeah. You don't stick around. No. Right, you're going to probably, oh, here it comes, you'll move maybe to cross-side on the other side or wherever you can go, right? Yeah. So that's the reality. I'm not saying don't try that escape, but let's be honest, man, against an active opponent, it's probably not going to work. So the minute you try to go over like that, that person already moves, right? So you need to be aware of that. Yeah. And so here it comes, I think, is like probably the most crucial lesson that I wish I'd been taught earlier on, and it would have made a big difference, is that it's actually always in the transition. When Dwayne moves from one point to another point where I do stand a good chance of escaping. It's in the transition, right? So when you go from north-south to cross-side, as you're moving, that's a good time to start thinking about, here's a time for escape, right? Where the escape becomes difficult is when you let somebody get the position, right? So, for example, if you come back to the cross-side position, right, so you've just got cross-side, so you've just landed. As he's starting to land, I want to start escaping. I don't want to wait until he starts locking down everything and now start wanting to escape, because now he's getting good position, right? So we're assuming he's just past my guard. I tried everything else and here he comes. He's just coming down and I'm starting to move. But if his timing is really good, as he feels me moving, he starts moving possibly to the north-south. Okay, exactly. All right, so come back again. It's actually in that motion of where he moves to the north-south where I do stand a chance of getting out of here. Because once he feels this and he goes north-south, but I don't react quick enough, go, and he locks down, now it becomes hard. Once he's locking down here, he's going to be looking for all the opportunities to stop this, right? He's going to be keeping my elbows in, all right? So, you know, even if I manage to get my arms out now, which already is really difficult because what he's done is he's crunched my arms onto my chest. So, you know, now I have to fight to get my hands here. And by the time maybe I get my hands, exactly, there we go. Right, by the time I get my hands in, he's already moved. So where I want to capitalize on this, go back to anti-cross side, where I want to capitalize on this is I want to capitalize is when he's actually moving, right? When I'm going here and he's starting to move and I feel like that's the time to start working some kind of escape, right? There I stand a much better chance. So now what I just did is I rolled to my knees. Now, this is where we can stop for a second because we'll look at it again and just look at this idea of rolling to the knees. Now, it's a very interesting idea for me is that, you know, this is my 19th year of doing Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And when I first started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in the day, I think it was 1996. It was just literally not even 3 years after the first UFC. You know, maybe, you know, the Gracies were there in the States for a while, but for the rest of us in the world and coming from South Africa, we'd never heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so in my beginning stages of learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the message to me was very clear. Don't roll to your knees. Right? Don't roll to your knees. Bad idea, man. If you roll to your knees, you're giving your back away. You know, we were all seeing as well the fights from Hickson, and Hickson would jump on people's backs and just choke them out. And it's still real in the sense of what they're saying. I get it. It makes a lot of sense. But what you start to realize, and you've realized this too, is that as you start rolling against people who have better and better games, you know, just pulling guard is very difficult. I mean, you get it, but you know, you don't get it like you used to against white belts, right? As this white belt becomes a blue belt and becomes a purple belt, and their game improves and their timing improves, and they know how to move when you move. You know, just being able to pull that guard is very difficult. So like it or not, you're stuck in a position now where you have to go to things like rolling to your knees, right? The most important thing, and yes, where the principles become very important, is that what I realized is, okay, if you're going to roll to your knees, just be careful that you don't roll to your knees directly in front of somebody. Because if you do that, then you get yourself into more trouble. What do I mean by that? So I'll use just a separate example to show this. If Dwayne's here in cross-side, I also, as I said earlier, I said, if I want to escape cross-side, one of the ways that I can, of course, is I can roll away from him, right? That's another way to get away from this guy, right? So if I roll away from him, though, the thing that I need to be the most careful about is that if I start rolling away from somebody, is never to roll directly onto my side like this. Because as you can see, what he immediately starts doing is he starts attacking me, right? I also give this away. So let's say he had his hand underneath my arm, right? And he was doing kind of this. He's getting an arm bar, setting up, right? Exactly. So I'm actually, by just rolling directly like onto my side when he's here, is always a bad idea. You know, because you've got the harness position, you've got arm bars, you've got chokes. I mean, you're giving everything. So what you see is the principle that I teach all my clients that I think is super important is that if you're going to roll, you want to make sure that when you roll, that your head is always facing the target. So even here, when I roll, I move myself this way and I roll and I face him, right? And when I face flame, I just do this just as an extra safety precaution. I go to what I call a butterfly position. I bring my hands in front of my neck, I cross over, and I keep my elbows down. When you roll to your knees, you've got to make sure your arms come inside your knees as a kind of a first point. I know some people like to do this sometimes. Nothing wrong with it. I like this, especially if I'm teaching somebody who's new to Jiu-Jitsu. You want to spread your legs quite wide, because if you keep your knees too close, you get rolled over, right? If somebody can't attack you from the quarter position, they're going to roll you over and attack you, right? Spread your knees makes it harder for the roll. You bring your arms inside so that there's no hooks coming in, especially if the person switches position very quickly, and now you land up in this butterfly position. But far more important than anything else there was the fact that my head is always facing the target, always facing the person. I'm not saying that I'm not vulnerable here by facing him, but I'm less vulnerable there than him being on my side. He has far more opportunities for attack and controlling me off the side than he's going to have over here. Once I'm here and I see where he is, there's always that opportunity now to sit back and pull guard, all right? Or sometimes coming out, grabbing an arm and coming back to the neutral knee position. So when we go back to how I'm escaping the north-south, the key element there is two things. One, not waiting until he settles, because then the escape is hard. Catching him as he's transitioning from one place to the next. Coming back to the idea of the X, right? Is that the transition is happening on those X lines. I'm catching him from when he's going from here, which is the cross side, into the X line before he gets to the north-south position and locks it down. I'm escaping. And then when I do escape, what's crucial there is that I'm rolling to my knees, but when I roll to my knees, my head is facing the target. So when he's holding cross-side again, right, I've tried everything. He's coming down. I go, oh, I want to be here. I start turning. He starts moving. Look, when I go, look at there. There's the butterfly position. And my knees come up and I pull my elbows down. So I'm over here. Now he's in this position. Once he's here, I then can feel where he's going to go to next, depending what he does. There he goes there. I put my arm up maybe. I've controlled this, right? Which is right here because I'm here. I can obviously duck underneath this. If I was more over here, I could have sat back and pulled him into the guard. And you'll notice what I did there. When I sat back, as I sat back, I put my foot on his hip just to hold him in place because he's going to want to chase me. So I want to stop the chase, and then I'm back to playing the active guard position. But more crucial was the fact that I got my head to face him. Sometimes what's going to happen here, when he's here, and I'm over here, and maybe his hands are down there, he's trying to attack my neck, right? I might be able to get two hands on his hands, which is always a good idea. If you can get two hands to occupy a hand, that's a very good tactic to put into play. The reason why is because typically he's going to need two hands to effect some kind of choking action. You know, going for a breadbasket choke or whatever, even like an old school guillotine, right? Okay, two hands on one hand, like a baseball grip or controlling his sleeve, just holding this is really good. Now once I've got this, I now can rotate myself to come out and get myself back to here. Of course, there's always, and this is also very important in once we start looking at this and we troubleshooting here, but there's always going to be a scramble. The scramble is where we're in the transition and each one of us are fighting for dominance, right? So even there, once I escape the cross sides, I'll show you what I mean by that, okay? So I'm in here and we're going to slow this really down. So I'm here. I'm starting to try to escape this. He's going to transition. In the transition, as I start, he goes, yeah, keep going, and I start coming up. Here is the scramble. The scramble is, he's now thinking, what should I do? Should I stay here? Should I try to get quarter on Rodney? You know, he's trying to decide. As he's moving, I'm turning because I'm trying to beat the scramble. I'm trying to keep my head towards him. Once we're here, we're still in a scramble because he's going to be doing something else to me and I'm going to be looking at where can I come out, right? And hopefully, if my timing and my game is fluid enough, I beat you to the scramble. So we can kind of talk about this at this point, is that I heard this a long time ago and didn't fully understand what it meant. But you know, you think about people who train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you know, you often see that you know, purple belts, they know a lot of techniques. They're really hungry. They're on YouTube. They're searching everything, trying to come up with all the cool stuff, playing De La Riva guard or berimbolo or whatever the thing is that they're trying to do. Black belts don't necessarily do that. And for example, we could argue that sometimes, often, the purple belt knows more techniques than necessarily a black belt does, because he started to develop his game. He knows what works for him and what doesn't. Black belts often still win though, not always, but often win. And the reason why is not necessarily because the techniques, and the black belt knows more techniques, it's just that the timing is better. And so one of the key elements here is developing the timing. In order to develop this timing that I'm talking about, to develop the timing to be able to capitalize on the transition, to capitalize on the scramble, is actually to slow things down, not to go faster. Most people think if I go faster, then I'll be able to do it. But actually when you go fast, what tends to happen is you miss a lot of the nuances. you miss the mistakes you're making. You're not always precise about the things that you're doing. So actually doing it at the pace that we did it right now, if I can find somebody to work with that understands this and we can flow and just kind of work through the process, as I do this, you know, my timing is going to improve, and that's crucial, because even just turning out of there, just one missed time and it will no longer work. Yeah. Right? So you have to find that perfect kind of feel, and this is what Jean-Jacques said. He said, you know, jiu-jitsu is about feeling. Right? That's what he meant, was that you need to think less and feel more. Well, how are you going to feel? You can't feel if you're going fast, because then you're just reacting. You need to slow things down. As you slow things down, you're able to feel more, you're able to make the adjustments, and this is, to me, is crucial. So actually, in actual fact, going like this is a good way to learn. Then of course at some point you're going to go and you're going to roll against somebody really live. It's going to be fast, it's going to be fast paced. That's fine, but now you've developed and built that feeling, and you know how to get your timing into play because you've done it slow first. And I think this is crucial. So now, of course, at any time when this is happening, you know, and I'm rotating out from there, he may feel that as he feels that rotation, he may want to kind of move back to a north-south, or at least back to a cross-side on the other side, right? That's going to happen. So that's back to that flow drill that we were doing earlier, the micro-flow we were doing at the top. So if he's over here, all right, and I start trying to escape and he starts moving, but he feels me trying to turn, if I don't turn quick enough, go back this way, if I don't turn quick enough, he's going to be on this side. All right, so this is important. He's going to be on the other side, because if I don't turn and don't time it properly, he's going to be on the other side. Now I have to be careful, because what just happened there is that he caught me in this position. Right? Now, this is where this side of your body becomes vulnerable. Right? So now, probably one of the better things to do here, rather than risk giving something away, you know, until you start developing some good game and you feel confident to be able to play it would obviously probably be a better idea just to move yourself back to this position and start working that idea again. And hopefully now, on the second run, you can get it, right? So it's better to come back, reset yourself, make sure that you're safe, right? Safety jiu-jitsu first, then try to risk now doing a roll. Because like I said, if I'm over here, the number one thing I have to worry about if I start rolling here is that he controls this arm. And you know, even though I try to make this roll, what I'm actually doing invariably is giving away my arm. So I need to always be careful of that. So there's some ideas there just on kind of dealing just with that top play. I think, you know, if you kind of put those ideas into play, it's going to make a big difference. Just remember though, what I said was that, you know, you want to try to capitalize on the transition for your escape. This is crucial. And then you must remember that even in the transition, there's going to be a scramble. And so whoever can dominate that scramble in that moment in time is likely the person that's going to be in a better position when everything is said and done. Alright, so now I want to deal with some of the other ideas that came up in those top microflows, right? Remember what we just did earlier before this video, we looked at one of the first microflows, the idea of going from cross-side to north-south to cross-side. The reason why I started with that is that that's very, very kind of typical for new people in jiu-jitsu. That's kind of a thing that they play, right? Going from cross-side to north-south to cross-side. Very common to see that. Now, as people's games start developing, they realize that actually there's other things that they can do. One of those, of course, is working a knee ride. So we're going to look at that quickly. You could then move to the mount, and then the rest of those microflows start kind of filling in those gaps as the person learns more about jiu-jitsu. So if Dwayne is over here, and I'm over here, now again, you know, I would have tried everything to stop this from happening, trying to keep him out there with my guard, but you know, I've made mistakes or my timing was a little bit off, and now he's down here. I'm still, remember, I want to keep his weight on my arms. That's very, very important, because I still want to try to see if I can escape this cross side. Again, it's going to come always down to timing. If he's too slow to react to my movement, if he just stays here and he doesn't do anything, then I'm likely going to be able to pull my hip out, make that space, pull my guard, right? As his game improves and he starts picking up what I'm doing, he's not going to stick around. We saw one, he went to north-south as an example. The other thing he could do is, as he feels me rotating, he'll jump to a knee ride. So as he feels me doing this, he'll jump to that deep knee ride, and what that does is it stops my turn, right? He knows that, okay? Now, he's going to put his hand on my bicep, because if he doesn't, let's say he put his hand where it is now, look, everybody misses things at times. the fact that he did that, well, now there's nothing stopping me using my hands. I mean, I could quite easily just shove this off. I can move my hip out, move this off, and kind of start moving my hip away, right? If he puts his hand on my bicep like we did it, well, now I'm at a disadvantage, right? I'm even more at a disadvantage if he grabs my sleeve now and he pulls this, right? So first thing is obvious. Even though this person's going to try to grab stuff, right? Don't let them just grab things if you can help it. So right now there's, you know, not much I can do about this, right? Especially if he starts attacking this. This to me, for me right now, this is more important than this. If I have to make a choice, I'd rather worry about this because this might get me armbarred, right? Okay, so the minute I feel him attach his hand to there, I'm either going to grab my own collar, because if I grab my collar and I lock my elbow to my chest, he can pull all day long. He's not going to be able to pull my arm up. If I'm just kind of leaving my hands here, boom, there goes my arm, and now I'm in trouble. So I lock this in here, all right, so control. And now if he's got that deep knee ride, he's got pushing over. Look at that, man. That's real hard to escape because it's very difficult, but at least I'm safe for a split second. Right, what I like to do here, and this is for me, it's like one of the only ways to really deal with this, because I could let go and I could try to get my hand underneath his leg, but that's a timing thing. Especially if he has my sleeve already, I don't really want to risk that because he'll pull my arm. All right, if he let go of this, then I have other options. So let's just look at it worst case scenario, right? He's got a good grip. He's still trying to pull my arm. I'm keeping my elbow down and I'm in this position. Right, now what I want to do here is I actually want to turn away from him, which kind of sounds weird because right now, because of where his pressure is on my stomach, I can't turn into him. It's pretty hard. But I will still be able to turn away. See what happens? He kind of has to readdress that, right? Not everybody's going to put their hand on the mat, all right? But he does feel that he's out of balance for a split second, so he's controlling my arm. He's stopping me from doing this. That's basically, so come a little bit lower even, yeah, there. So this is hard for me to do, right? I can't actually get my hand to his knee. So I'm going to rotate myself away. As I rotate myself away, now I want to use my knees as a way to rotate myself back. All right, so let's look at that again. Okay, so I'm over here. I'm in this position. He feels the escape coming, he jumps up, he kills out my arms, right? He's going to go for that. I want to make sure that that gets down to this position so that doesn't happen, right? I don't want this sticking up over here. So the minute I started turning, I grab there, right? Now I feel like I can't move, right? He's stopping my hand going to the knee. I want to rotate away. So I'm going to turn away from it and then bring the knee up and knock it. Now what happens is we're in this position. We kind of back, let's just turn this way. We kind of back to what we did earlier on, where I've got this braced position, right? Remember I said ideally it's always nice to be here, but you don't always have that. Sometimes you're over here, right? Now I'm controlling this, my hand is here. If I can't get underneath it because I feel he's too low, I'm going to shove my knee behind my arm, I'm going to pop him, and I'm going to move out. Okay, so let's get another angle on this. So over here, get to the knee ride already. Okay, so he's got the knee ride, he's got control, he's stopping my hand from pushing his knee off. Because even if I get my hand here, I can tell you that now, because I can't move my shoulder properly, there's no way I can push this knee off, not with this. If he takes his hand away, of course, now I can push it off. He puts his hand quite low, just where the inner elbow is. Doesn't matter how much I push, this is not going to come off. Remember, this hand's in danger. So I'm going to reach, I'm going to grab my collar, and drop my elbow. All right, now, I want to rotate away from him so that he feels the weight like he's going to fall over this side. Right, if I want to, I can even just be a little bit more careful. So I'm putting my hand right now on his knee so he doesn't just slide to the mount, right? Because sometimes when you do this, if you leave this out, he may slide to the mount. Okay, then we deal with that problem, right? But let's say I put my hand just on his knee, just put it there. I'm not trying to push it off. When I rotate now, he can't just go to the mount because my hand's in the way. Now I want to bring this bottom knee up. I want to bump his knee. So I'm going to hit it with my knee. And as I hit it with my knee, it turns. Right, this is where I'm at. Now, of course, right here, I have to be careful that I don't land up in some kind of scarf hold, right? Okay, so my elbow is to the mat, and I'm holding this position. All right, I want to be careful now. Don't do this. Exactly. So my elbow's down. Just, you know, so I'm going to put my hand wherever I can get it. Right now, it's on his wrist. If I can, you know, if his arm was grabbing me lower, grab me lower. Maybe it's over here, but I'm keeping my elbow down. This hand is up here. I'm going to press my knee behind my arm, and I'm going to pop him over. I could also use my knee behind his back. That works as well. So if I put my knee behind his back, that's also going to drop him over. Or I put my knee behind my arm, that's going to drop him over. Just for a split second. As I do that, this arm must retract quickly, pull myself out, and get into another position, right? So now I've gone from the bottom back to the top. All right, now we're going to look at just the mount, right? So we looked at it before when I was on top. I was looking at how do I actually get the mount. All right, so Dwayne's going to do the exact thing to me. I'm going to be in cross side. He starts setting up the mount position, right? So he brings his hand over and then he turns towards my legs first. Now, remember, the reason he's doing this is so that it's very difficult for me to see right now. You can't really peer over and see where he's going to come in. The only time you know is once he grabs your pants. And what he's going to be doing anyway is he's going to be switching that. Because if I block this, say for example I block like this out, I go, okay, he's got this, so I know he wants to bring his leg in. But let's say I bring this leg up, he can switch that hand to this leg now and start working on that leg. So there's this fight going on. So like it or not, I mean, of course, this is really good to stop somebody. But I found like most of the time this is great if he just tries to throw his leg over the top, like throw like a circle leg over the top, like just circle it up. Yeah, exactly. Now that works really well, okay? But if he's doing what we did, where he basically tries to slide it inside that little gap, right, that's not necessarily going to stop him, okay? So I need to, again, what we said earlier, is that if I allow him to settle into the position, so I allow him to get to the mount, then it's going to be much harder to get out of. So it's better to try to catch him in the transition. So think about where's the transition here. This right now is a good control position. If he feels like he's losing this, he can turn back to cross side quite easily. Okay, it's no problem for him to turn back there. All right, so this is not really the problem for him, right? This is not the thing that he has to worry about. Where's the transition? The transition for him really is when he starts sliding that knee over. So once Dwayne gets that knees coming over, that's the part where he has to worry the most about. If he doesn't capitalize quickly on this, this is where he's going to lose this. And this is where I want to essentially start attacking him. Not once he gets his knee down here. Right? So once his knee is down and he starts turning towards the mount position, this is not vulnerable for him. Because, come back again, Dwayne. Once he's even there, he can dismount if he wants to, you know, he can go back to a knee ride. It's not really a vulnerable state, but when he's sliding his knee over is actually where he's the most vulnerable. So watch what I'm going to do here, right? So he switches, all right? I know that something's coming. I'm trying to block it out. He slides his knee over. This is what I want to do first. I want to put this hand. But when I put this hand here, I'm not kind of creating a space because he'll immediately attack this arm. Right, exactly. So I keep my arm close to my body and I do this. But because he's coming over, he has to create some space here too. So I'm actually going to grip with my second hand. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 2 grips. Now what I want to do is I want to use that same motion I did before when I was escaping the cross side. I'm going to pull this knee up. As I pull this knee up, I'm going to pull and start turning towards him. Once I turn towards him, you'll notice I put my hand in his hip. I'm immediately making the space and I'm driving to bring my knee back in to get him back at a distance. Okay, so let's look at that again. Right, so he's in here. I'm trying to escape. He starts switching over. I know something's happening. I'm trying to block this out. Right, obviously I can do lots of different things. I can use this hand to block his leg out. Every time he tries to bring his knee in, I can just do this. But let's say he gets that knee across. A little bit slow. Look there. Look how easy it is to go to this position. Just to put your hands here. It's very, very easy. And you lock this all in. Now, you want to rip this towards you like you're going to pull it. Right, and as I pull it, I'm going to turn and rotate. Now, right there is a good example of what just happened. My hand's inside his leg, so I could rotate up, and I've got control of his leg. Right, this is a really good position. If I come out all the way here, I'm here. Let's say I didn't come out all the way here. Right, I'm over here. I can now step over, hook this leg, start driving him, take him down, squeeze my knees because I'm trying to control him. Right, and then move, lock out the hip, go to cross side. So what you'll find is as you play with this, lots of cool little variations come out, right? Okay, so let's get another angle on this. Right, so I'm over here, trying to escape. He switches out, here he comes, he's trying to mount, I'm trying to block, he mounts, boom! That's what I want. I just want to catch it, like this, right, with my hands, elbow in. So even if he starts attacking this arm now, my elbow's in so he can't do anything. I can even bring this leg up a little bit, just to kind of
protect my arm. This reinforces it. So you attack a bit, not that easy. Now, boom, there. That's what I want. Even there, look what happened. There was an opportunity for me to drive. See, you see the same things over and over and over. So now I'm over here, right? I've got this knee in. He's going to want to pass. I'm going to be blocking out. I'm going to pull my back leg through, or my bottom leg, and back to this position. Now I'm playing the active guard, and we're back to square one. Right? Keeping the midline, playing around, and now looking, and if he passes, I'm going to pit stop. I'm going to do all the things that I previously did. And hopefully this time, don't let him get past. Alright, what I'm going to do now, something else from that top microflow, is I'm going to deal with the side mount. Right, so this time around, we're actually going to start from where Dwayne has the mount position. Now, remember what I said, once somebody has the mount, once they're securing position, it's always harder to escape. I'm not saying it's not possible to escape. Of course you can still escape, but it's harder, right? It's better to catch people in the transitions. So this time around, he's got the mount. Now what typically happens is very common escape because, when I first started learning jiu-jitsu, you would see that kind of that old school escape, grab the arm, lock it in, lock the foot, turn the person over. Great escape, nothing wrong with it, but I found this, as people develop their games, I don't get that escape anymore. When do you get that escape? Not against the higher belts, right? They don't make mistakes like that. Maybe white belts, right? But nobody at a higher level sticks their arms into those places and lets you just clamp on like that. So a lot of times what you tend to see a lot then is variations of the knee and elbow escape, right? The problem with the knee and elbow escape is that, again, if he's astute, and what he's always going to be picking up on is that he will always use those opportunities to go somewhere else, because we said nobody's just going to stick around there, let you do a knee and elbow escape, get completely out of the mount position, right? He's going to do something before you do that. And what's very common is for somebody to go to that side mount or the S mount, right? So they go to the side mount position. But first I want to just address the knee and elbow escape, because I do think it's a very, very effective escape. So we're going to look at that first, right? So I'm going to be lying here. Dwayne's going to mount me. So, right, I maybe missed this opportunity, but okay, he's now in the mount. Okay, most important thing for me, once he's in the mount, keep my elbows down and keep my hands up. Right, don't let this happen so that he can encroach and come higher. So even if this happened for a second, I still want to kind of get myself back to this position. This is where I want to be. All right, my hands are in front of my face, and I'm protecting myself from the chokes. Right, my knees are actually always up. When I go for an escape though, I'm actually going to drop one leg. So when I do the knee and elbow, I drop one leg, because that'll make it easier for me to clear this leg. Now, typically, if he's sitting up like this, it's not going to be that easy to get a knee and elbow escape. So a lot of times he's going to be over me, and he would be over me if he's trying to, not necessarily like exactly, not completely over, but kind of there because he's trying to attack my collars. He's trying to see if he can get some kind of submission, a collar choke, for example. Exactly, right? So I'm protecting myself here, whatever. And then I see there's an opportunity, right? So what I want to do here is I want to go there. I put this hand in his hip, and I put this hand on top, so I've got this kind of action. It's a very similar action to what we had before, right, where you cup it. So yeah, now my elbow does a driving action as I take a bridge, and the idea behind the bridge is that I want to turn my hip. I don't want to just do this, okay? So it's not just coming up like this, but it's actually going to be a little bit of a turn to drive that leg, and then I'll move my leg down, I pull it through, and then I would, because I'm not immediately going to get two legs up, maybe on a good day, right? But if you're running at somebody who's really good, he's already starting to come down to capture, and then I'm moving, and I'm back to where we were before. And if I can, I try to get my knee in. If I got this half guard, get here, right, and start working immediately to pull my feet back. Again, so without Dwayne, the key here on that knee and elbow escape is to be here, right? You're pushing against that whole part of the front part of his thigh. You're driving that leg back. You have to have this leg down. As you drive, you bridge up. So you bring his weight onto your hip. Remember, if he's holding the mount properly, his knees, the weight of his knees are crunched against my sides, and they're also into the mat. There's a little bit of a space here. So just doing this is not enough for most people to get that person to rise up. You're trying to get them to rise up, lose a bit of balance, so that you can capitalize on it. So the only way to really do it is to come up and hit with that hip, so that you can get them up. This takes practice, right? You have to spend a lot of time working this, right, to be able to stay up here. Then you slide your leg through, you recapture. If you can, immediately slide that knee in and get yourself up. Not always possible. Sometimes you'll end up in a full half guard, and then you've got to work from there. All right, so if he's mounting me, okay, so we look at that just one more time. He's maybe attacking my collars, I'm trying to protect myself. I bring my knees up, I put one leg down, I go, yeah, right? I push on this leg, I drive it back, and then I slide this knee through, go for the capture, immediately start turning this way and start moving myself out. All right, hopefully he doesn't chase me too quickly. I'm able to get my knee in the way. All right, I start pulling this bottom leg through, and I'm back, and I'm actively playing my guard. Right, now, back to what I said earlier. The minute he feels that knee and elbow escape, there's a very good chance he's going to pivot on me, and he's going to go to the side mount position. So let's look at that. And that's very, very common. It's high percentage. You're going to see that a lot, right? So I'm going to be here. Almost in all escapes where you're attacking down here, people will spin because it makes sense, right? Otherwise, what's going to happen? Exactly what just happened. I'm getting out of here. This is a good place for him to be. Bad for me. I'm not getting out of here. And now we're going to be in a scramble and he's going to be fighting for a position that he doesn't really want. He wants this position. He wants to be on top, right? So if I'm here, right, and I go, yeah, and as soon as I start going like this, he's going to start turning. Exactly. Right, now what he's trying to do is he's trying to occupy this space, right, close this up, and he wants to have this knee behind my head. Okay, now obviously once this happens and I'm in here, this is kind of hard to deal with because I'm very, very vulnerable. One is my arm is vulnerable. I'm vulnerable for chokes. I mean, it's just not a good place to be, okay? So if I can focus on the transition, like I said earlier, this is where I do stand a much better chance of getting out of this. So if he comes back to the mount, let me show you what we mean. We're gonna slow it down so you can see. So as I go here and I start bridging and he starts turning and you feel him, I want to put my hands through that gap. If I can get my hands through that gap, I now stand a chance of escaping this position. Right? Because what I want to do here is I now want to bring myself out of this. Now, when I come out of this, there's a couple of variations. You know, different people have different ways of doing this. What I like to do here, if I'm coming this, I want to bring this leg still like it's coming over my head. And as that happens, I want to turn and start moving myself out. So that at least I'm back playing the guard position. Okay, so let's look at that again. So he's got that side mount. I've managed to get my hands through, all right? I don't want to do this, right, preferably. It's typically not a good idea to just kind of push this leg and rotate this way. Because as you rotate this way, exactly, look what happened. You see what you just did? Yeah. He jumped on my side. Yeah. Well, of course he's going to do that, right? Remember, the whole idea is if I'm losing a position, I'm going to move somewhere else, and I'm going to move somewhere else where I can still capitalize. He just capitalized on that, right? So I come back again. What should I do? I don't go this way. I go the other way. So I go like this, I go this way, and as I go this way, I start moving myself. As he starts turning, he's going to move into my legs. And that's what I want. Now we're in that scramble again, right? This is the thing that I feel like nobody ever talks about, right? There is no such thing typically as a clean escape. Not against higher belts. There's always a scramble. It's always slightly messy. It's a chaotic system, right? And so, but it's how quickly I'm able to capitalize on the scramble and my timing and how many times I've trained this and seeing all the variables. Probably if you go back and you look at just the 2 times that I escaped there, I might have made slightly different variations on my hands. Yeah. Because it depends on, is he this close? Is he that far? Is he this low? Is he that high? This is the problem with jiu-jitsu a lot of times is that, yeah, it's great having all these instructionals, but the problem is that those techniques are done in the perfect scenarios. Like if all the stars aligned, it would work exactly as I wanted to. Then you roll and it doesn't work very well. Yeah. And then you get stressed because you're like, oh, I can't get this right. Because nobody ever told you is that it doesn't have to be picture perfect, it just has to work. Okay? All right, so perfection is great when we're training and working technique, but the reality is we'll never get perfection in a real roll. It doesn't work that way. It's every now and again, but hardly ever. Right? So approximation is far more important than perfection and getting out. So yes, maybe it's not picture perfect as we did it when we trained it, but did I get out? Yes, I did. Did I land up in a worse position? No. Okay, that's a success story right there. Okay, that's very important. Now, let's look at what happens though if my timing's a little bit out and you get the side mount and I haven't been able to get my hands in. Alright, so now that is a problem. Remember what I said is that the worst thing for me always in jiu-jitsu is once the guy settles, right? So I'm going to assume right now he's settled, right? I've let him clamped down. He's probably already starting to attack my arms, and I'm now in this position where I'm like, oh, I'm going to be careful. Okay? Now, what sometimes people will do here to kind of think, okay, probably better than being here is go back to the mount. Well, maybe it's an option, right? I can go back, I can just turn and just do this, and then he will reposition himself. He'll go back to the mount, and he'll start holding me from there. Okay? All right, so we go back again. That's an option. Okay, what I like to do here, though, is that even though I can't really use my hands right now because I want to be very careful, if I let go of an arm, he's going to pull it. I know he's going to attack that arm. So I'm controlling my core as I go into my butterfly position. I keep my elbows down. I'm watching that he doesn't, A, choke me out. All right, B, doesn't get an arm. He's going to be attacking. I know that. Okay. All right, where I'm going to focus now is I'm going to use this part of my hip down here. I'm going to put all the focus on his leg. All right, so what's going to happen now is, watch what happens. I'm going to bring my legs up and I'm going to drive my hip into that foot and watch what starts happening. See how that stretches his foot out? And as that stretches his foot out, then I can start bringing my legs in. Now, depending what happens, let's say he fell over here, as an example, this is a perfect example of a scramble, right? You're going to do what? You're going to be trying to sit up. I'm going to try to stop you. I'm going to be watching how I get armbarred and stuff too, right? And now, whoever gets back to the top position first wins the race. Okay, that's how it works, right? I mean, isn't that exactly how it is in a roll?
Exactly.
Exactly, right? So whoever gets back on top, man, that's the person who wins. Okay, so, all right, so we're back here again. I realize I can't use my hands. I realize that it's a bad idea to let anything go right now. So I put all my attention, bring my legs up. Okay, it's hard to do it here. Bring your legs up. You see this, I do this a lot. Just bring your legs up. Attaching my legs closer to him gives me leverage power. Right now, I'm going to use my right hip to drive that foot like I'm going to extend it. And it's going to stretch it. So he's got a choice, basically. He can hold on to this and hope that he still can keep it, or he might freaking take his foot out and go somewhere else, and then I'm back to another position, right? But let's say he decides he's going to try to hold it. He's stubborn. I'm going, see, that starts turning him. He might fall, he may not fall, but if he does, now I get my hands and I put my hands underneath. The reason I'm not leaving this is because you can obviously see this is a bad idea, right? If he goes here, he's going to armbar me, okay? Yeah. So I don't want to leave my hand in here. That's why I put my two hands underneath like I did before. Right, now we're in the scramble position. Right, I'm scrambling towards him, he's scrambling towards me, and we're going to see who gets there first, and whoever gets the better control, boom, and we're back on top, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did there was I used my hip to drive his foot out, protected myself. I think this again is a very important kind of idea, is the idea of using your hips more, because one of the things that I see a lot when people are starting off in jiu-jitsu is that they can move their hands, they can move their legs, maybe they can move their hips, but they can't do all three things at the same time.
Yeah.
That takes practice. And again, I'm going to keep reiterating this. The way that I found, if you want to really develop that kind of felt sense, that feeling of being able to move everything in coordination, typically happens when you slow stuff down. If I do it slowly like that, I'm really getting the feel. I'm really connecting to my body. I can feel where I need to make those subtle adjustments, and then I'm able to make move. And of course, once I've practiced that and rehearsed that, like say 100 times, my body will just be on autopilot and it'll immediately move into the right sequence of movements, and I'll be able to do it fast and explosive if I need to, because sometimes that's what's required, right? And so then I'm able to put that into my game. Alright, we're going to start off again from the side mount, but this time around, Dwayne's picking up on what I'm doing. He's going, okay, I get what this guy's trying to do, right? He's trying to escape this position. I'm not going to let him, and he capitalizes on the way that I'm moving my body so that he can take my back. And this happens, right? Or maybe I roll too far. It happens as well. You know, you overcompensate on things and you end up landing in the back position. So now he's going to have his hooks in. He's going to have his hooks in on my back. Most important thing though, of course, is that what he's going to probably want to do is going to want to roll me over. And if he can roll me over, because then he can start mounting attacks. I'm not saying you can't get attacks from this position, but it's kind of difficult. So most people will try to roll you over, be on your back and then attack. So now we've got a whole new problem to deal with. The same thing is going to apply though, again, and I'm going to show you this. You see this theme over and over. The longer I take to kind of make my escape, the harder it's going to be. I'm just saying that. It's just the reality of it, right? The quicker I can kind of get in on that transition and utilize it to my advantage, the quicker I'm able to escape a position. So Dwayne's over here, and he's got that side mount. He's trying to control, right? He's trying to attack me. He feels me trying to do things, and he can quite easily drop himself, and he can use his shoulder to move me, and he turns me over. Now, most important thing is I don't want to be pancaked on the floor like flat. So I immediately came up, right, and I brought myself in, and I'm protecting my neck because, like I said, he doesn't have a lot of options here, but he can attack me on my neck. And the last thing I need is to give him a clean choke and let him roll me over and choke me out, right? So I want to be protecting my neck. Once he's tried to attack you a little bit and he doesn't get anything, he's likely going to do exactly that. You see that roll? That's where this is going to come into play. Now, there's something so important here, and it's about that transition that I said, that if I don't capitalize on it straight away, I'm going to get myself into trouble. One of the things that I did is I kept my elbows down and I did this because one of the things he's going to want to do is control my arms. He may want to come under my arms. This is bad news, right? Like a harness position. I mean, you know, once you've got people doing that on you, you're going to have a tough day. You're going to have to deal with that first before you can do anything else. So to me, it makes more sense to do something the minute the roll starts happening. So there's a crucial thing I'm going to do, and we're going to look at that, right? So if I'm back here, we'll start from this position. Dwayne has his hooks in. Okay, so he's taken my back. I'm in a really bad spot right now. It's not where I want to be. I'm protecting my neck. As he rolls me, watch what I do. I immediately pushed myself down and I kind of dropped my weight. So I pulled myself away from him. I'm still in danger, but it's now, the danger is more, say, him switching over to an armbar than it was the danger of getting choked out. I still have my hands over here. Just the way I'm sitting right now, I know I can feel where this leg is and this leg is. This arm is the arm that's in danger. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to release this arm. I'm not going to use this arm now, because if he's quick in the transition himself and he scrambles again, as we did before, right, and he relinquishes this position, I'm going to get armbarred. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to stress out about this. I'm going to, if I can, use this hand, because this hand is not so vulnerable right now. I'm going to reach down. I'm going to grab his foot. So I'm grabbing his foot, and I'm going to basically peel this hook off and put my elbows in. Once I do that, I'm now able to get my hands underneath his leg. I always like to go here, because what this tells me is if this is happening, I haven't left one arm inside. And this is where I'm always worried, okay? Because if he just switches this leg over my head, boom, there we go, I'm in trouble. Okay, if I get two hands underneath, I'm in the scramble, but I'd much rather be in a scramble than him armbarring me, right? Now, of course, if I've got this, my next thing is to start rotating towards him, move up, try and get control of the position and get back up. More important than anything I did there is the fact that I pumped myself down.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll give you an example as well of why that's also important. So if he just puts his hooks in here, not everybody's going to fall as he did. I got a really good position there because I reacted so quickly, and so he was at a disadvantage. Alright, I want to show you this though. If I'm here and I'm protecting myself, if I stay where I am, it's very difficult just here to clear hooks because he has a lot of stickiness to my legs. Okay, if I manage to get myself down a little bit, now look what happens if I straighten my leg out, and as I straighten out, I'm going to go at a 45 degree. Okay, so put your hook back. So it's here, I go like this, and then just by pushing my hip a little bit up, that pops out. So the fact that I've pushed myself down, I'm actually able to strip the hooks. This is important, right? So let's face this way. Let's have a look at this. If I stay here, and typically, yeah, here's a good example. My head is in line with his head, right? See, it's kind of in line. This is the perfect spot for Dwayne. If he wants to control this position, this is the spot he wants. Because if he's going to get a clean choke, oh, it's perfect. And look at that angle. It's fantastic, right? So that tells me that I never want to have head in line with his head. If I can feel his head here, that's a bad idea for me, right? So immediately what I want to do is I want to kind of shimmy myself down. Now my head's a bit lower. Even if he got a choke now, he can still do it, but it's hard. He can tell you the angle's already changed. It's not as perfect as he would like it. He'd rather have me back up again. Right, but obviously I'm going to come down. I'm protecting my arms, but watch, because I came down, right, I can now even squeeze his legs a little bit together, which puts a bit of pressure on his ankles. And now if I straighten my leg, look what happened. Now once the hook is out, I can start moving myself to get these hands and start rotating myself back to position to get up. So two things are crucial there, right? So if we look at just that, two things. In the roll, react immediately.
Yeah.
Pull yourself down. But pull yourself down is going to, if there is somebody who has good hooks on you, is going to enable you to clear the hooks without you even letting go and grabbing. You don't even have to put your hands down. So many times I see beginners reaching down to grab the hooks, and the reason they're doing that is because their head is in line with the person that's controlling their back. If you get your head just lower, you can bypass all of that, because you have to worry really about a couple of things. You have to worry about being choked out, either with your gi or just say a figure 4 choke, whatever that may be. All right? You have to worry about the guy spinning out and going for an armbar. You could also get triangled from there if he spins out, depending on where you put your arms. So your arms and your neck are the two things you want to protect. So if you can leave those things out of play for as long as possible, get rid of the hooks, because the hooks is the thing that's stopping you from going anywhere.
Right.
Now you stand a chance. But the quicker you can get it in the turn, as the turn push down, the better your escape's going to be. Alright, I want to address the side quarter position now. So we'll just give you an example of how this might happen. Remember what I said, that whenever I roll to my knees, the number one thing I want to do is I always want to have my head facing the target. Again, you know, if all stars align, that works out, but sometimes you're a little bit slow, or you have an opponent that's really good, really quick, and they're already 2 steps ahead of you, and they capitalize on the transition themselves, and they land up on the side, right? So now you're dealing with this. So we'll give you an example of where this might happen. I might be, for example, in cross side. I'm starting to escape. He's going north-south and see an opportunity to roll, but this time around, boom, exactly, look what happened. So now he's on the side of me. Okay, so the first thing is that when he's on the side of me like this, I still need to make sure that I protect my neck at all costs. So we're actually going to just turn this way so we can face this much better. Okay, now typically what most people will do is they'll keep their knee in this position. I'll put it in the front of your knee as a good control, all right? And then he may be doing things with his hands. He may be looking for some kind of submission. I want to protect, okay, and that's important. But here's the thing that I'm going to tell you that I found that really is probably one of the most important things to do here. Don't let the person connect their hands, right? So don't let them connect 2 hands. If they connect 2 hands, right, or underneath there, or underneath this arm, this is where you have a lot of problems. I mean, because now that person can control you, all these harness positions. So what I typically do is, one, I stop the chokes, but anytime I see Dwayne trying to connect his hands, I'm always pushing his hands away. I don't let him ever get his hands to connect, right? So I push his hand towards him if I have to, just don't let that happen. Now, while all of that is happening, while I'm making sure he doesn't connect his hands, I'm looking for an opportunity to escape. Now here's the thing, right? In this position, it's probably not going to be a good idea to roll out of this, because if you roll over, he's going to stick with you. Remember, we did that. So what I like to do, when I see it as an opportunity while he's trying to attack my neck, and I feel a little bit of weight comes off me, I want to move away from him. So I actually reach across the mat to go away. Once that happens, I'm going to start turning. When I start turning, I'm going to pull him straight into my guard. Now you'll notice what I did was kind of quick, so we'll try and slow that down. As I turn, I put my hand here underneath his arm. I try to go for an underhook. Even if I don't get an underhook, I still want to have my hand here, because if I don't block out this line, as he feels me pulling away like that, he's going to jump on my back, right? So I need to stop that from happening. So if Dwayne's over here, and I'm blocking this out, and he's attacking me, I'm not going to do this if I feel a lot of weight on me. There's always, as people attack you, you feel that there's a shifting of a weight. Sometimes there's a lot of weight, and then as he attacks, right, there's a lot of weight, but as he keeps up, there's a little bit less weight. I can feel that there's less on me. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to stretch across. I'm going to reach across, like I'm going to almost pull myself away from him. Right? He's going to be over here. Now I want to turn myself. As I turn myself, this hand goes here. See, this time I didn't get an underhook, but I blocked his leg out. Okay, so I didn't always get the underhook. This time I got his leg. That's fine. I know that he's going to be chasing this side. I'm going to be looking to block, put my feet to his hips, and get back to the position. Right, so let's do it again.
I was a lot further over as well.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I went further with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so if I'm over here, he's on the side, protecting. Boom, there. Now, because you weren't as far, this time around I get the underhook. I don't care, like I said. Underhook is great. Side of the hip is great. Leg is great. The most important thing is block this, because why am I saying? Like, here's a good example. if I leave this out, he's going to go this way. He's going to, as I start turning, oh, yeah, bad idea. Okay, all right, so now you're going to jump on my back. Straight away. What will stop you though is the fact that I've put my hand here, all right, so you can't, and then it'll give me just enough time to rotate back.
Right.
That's one of the easier ways to deal with that. You know, don't roll over. If you roll over, guys stuck to you, and now you've got to deal with that problem.